Welcome, everybody. As you come in, please let us know where you are from in the comments box, where you're coming in from, where you're watching from. We're having a conversation today. Truth will set you free, number 8, here on June 30th, 5:30 p.m. We've got guest hosts Aaron Smalls and Curtis Harkness. Kashley Kelly will be on as well, and I've got a very special guest giving us some more knowledge. The lovely Serena will be on as well. We've been talking a lot over the last couple of days, so come on in. The subject matter today, we're going to talk about the phrase "all lives matter." We're going to talk about KState football, the Suburban Commando in St. Louis, Missouri. If you guys saw the wealthy couple with guns in front of their house. And I really want to talk about COVID-19. So we'll get that started. Again, we'll be starting in about 1 or 2 minutes. We'll be introducing our hosts. So come on over. Share the page, and let us know where you're from in the box. What's in the box? All right, again, we're less than a minute away. Continue to share this conversation that we're having today. I'd love to have an open conversation with all different groups, whether it be conservative, liberal, middle ground, whatever it is. Today's conversations, hopefully we'll be able to make an impact on how you have conversations with your friends, with your family, etc., and we all can learn some stuff together. We're kicking the episode off with All Lives Matter discussion and introducing Serena to the group. So for today's episode of Truth Will Set You Free. All right, I think it's about time we get everything started. Keep sharing the page out. Thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully we'll be done in a relatively fair amount of time today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anthony Michael Russo from #BetheChange. You just saw some of the co-hosts that we've got for this episode. So we are excited to talk about a lot of different issues and learn how to have a better conversation with each other, have the opportunity to learn as well as possibly teach as well in terms of how our opinions differ, but at the same time, we are all very similar. So I do want to bring up our other hosts on this show. I'm going to go ahead and unmute them one by one, and we're going to start with introducing Mr. Real Life Curtis. How's it going, Curtis?
What up, Anthony? Can you hear me?
I can.
I always like to say that because sometimes you can't. You don't want to jump into that rant and then be like, I can't hear you. No, how you doing? I'm glad to be here again, as always. Beautiful day outside, but I'm in because I want to be safe, but also because that's where the best Wi-Fi is. Real Life Curtis, follow me, say what up. I'm here just to keep hitting that positivity, and I do have a really cool announcement to make later in the show.
Sounds good. Aaron, what's cracking? This started snowballing from your idea. What's going on in your world?
My world is good. It's great to see you guys. Another great day. I'm a little upset with Kelly Harder in the comments already because she's already given us a hard time about how long the show is going.
It's gonna be shorter. It's gonna be shorter today.
It will. Nope. It will go shorter today.
No, we're doing it.
It's like saying I'm only going to go out and have one drink. That never works.
Isn't sure?
That never works. But hey, everybody, it's great to see you guys here. Thanks for hanging out with us. It is a beautiful Tuesday here in Orlando. People are crazy here, which is why I'm going back to New York soon. But it's been a back and forth between New York and down here, seeing where I will actually be admitted. So we'll see what happens. We'll have a good talk today. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Awesome. And then we got Mr. Kashley Kelly in the bottom. I noticed you were waiting for the numbers to go up. You're like, why is it? Oh, it didn't share. I get it. All right.
I can share it right now. Right. We're doing this, brother. We are doing it. I hope everybody's having a great day out there. I'm broadcasting live from Unity, America. Background. I wanted to sound in like Hawaii or something, but then like, no, I didn't got a Hawaii backdrop. I'm really sitting here in the hood with a green screen.
Awesome. Well, Kash, thank you for coming on. Before we bring on our guest for this episode, Serena, who is actually, I hope Frank Lockwood is watching. Dr. Frank from some of our other shows. he actually recommended her and I speak, and she messaged me. It was fantastic. So here's what we're going to do today, gentlemen, and Serena, while you're listening backstage. We've got those 4 topics. We're going to be talking about All Lives Matter. We're going to be talking about Kansas State's athletics. We're talking about COVID-19, and we're talking about Suburban Commando in St. Louis. Here's what we're going to try to do. Each subject has 15 to 20 minutes max. Try to consolidate our answers in about a minute and a half. That goes for you mostly, Curtis. Okay.
Don't even do that because you get in there too. There you go. There you go. Right. Responsibility. Let's go.
All right. All right. So with that said, I want to introduce somebody to the show. Her name is Serena. Serena and I have been talking the last 2 days. She works in Atlanta. She works with a nonprofit, and actually, she and I were just talking about something their community is trying to do to create conversation, and with that conversation, the risks that get involved as well, in terms of being afraid of having the conversation and it causing danger to its people. But I want her to go ahead and tell her a little bit about herself. Serena, how you doing, lovely lady?
I am doing excellent. I hope you guys can hear me. I don't know what's going on with mine. Okay, that's a little bit better.
You sound good.
Okay, so I came up with Anthony. I'm happy to be on. I love the show. I think it is both sides of the story for a lot of people. I'm surprised that Anthony hasn't invited me on, because when I came on, I sort of came on like a little shark with him on just making sure that we are on both sides, which he does a great job on. But I told him that people like in our community, I live in Coweta County, Georgia, close to studios. It's predominantly white, 60%. And there's a lot of fear of coming together of the unknown. And it's mainly in the Caucasian population because of what they have seen on TV. They don't want to have anything to do with like trying to find a positive, I guess, cure, or what they call it. This is a cure. They believe that this is just inbred in certain people to act this way. So, and I hate saying it like that because some of the things I even told Anthony, I said on some things that people have believed in the past that I've known, I would never mention it because it's a little deep. But I do work for this nonprofit, and it's about changing and shaping young minds that goes into the future. And with all this going on, a lot of people fear that this divide is always going to be. So that's why when I came on here, I love the diverse group. And I told Anthony, I said, don't be afraid to have other people on or other speakers that are Caucasian too as well. Because I said, I looked over a lot of the comments, and what I saw was that a lot of the Caucasian people were clapping, high-fiving. And I said, a lot of the Black people were still out there riding. And so what I told him was, I mean, you're not going to have everybody get along great, but I just want to make sure that everything was heard. If someone says something, you want it heard because it's based on their walk in life.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
And then I'm going to have you, we'll talk about the charity that you work for as well a little bit. And before we get started talking about All Lives Matter, because you actually, you came in hot, and I was driving, and I read this we're talking like cell phone length message. And I was like, oh, sugar Shane Mosley, what did I do wrong? And it wasn't that at all. It was just her take on things. And it was really, really interesting. But right now you're going through something. You had meetings today, if you can speak about it, and the fact and the way that it's being spun. It's a unity event. You said people are afraid of it, but they're actually afraid of rioting while they're trying to create peace.
Right. So we're working with the Family Patterns Matters is trying to work with the Board of Education, the police department, and the community about getting a symposium just with several cities. Because there's a lot of money that they can donate to the police. They can just do different things. So we wanted to get that together, and we came across a lot of people who are just like, no, because people from different areas are going to come out and it's going to be rioting. There's nothing wrong with our police department. There's nothing that needs to be changed. Like, it's stuck in their head. And like I tell people all the time, just because you don't walk that life or haven't lived that life, I said, doesn't mean anything. I'm an Army brat, born in Germany, came over from Panama to Georgia. And the first thing I see on one of the major highways is the KKK in 1980 on horses. So my parents are both from Mississippi, so we were schooled about stuff. But because I lived in Panama, I didn't have to learn as much or see as much. I was around a lot of people. But then when I came to Georgia, it was like I had to learn the difference of, I always could say all lives matter. And we know this. But when I got to Georgia and seen the KKK, that's when I really realized as a young girl that what Black Lives Matters meant. So it's just getting people to understand and getting out of their comfort zone. But it has to be heard and has to be done.
Yeah. And you actually talked on the phone today, very similar to why Aaron started the conversation between us three. You started talking about being uncomfortable. You didn't even, I don't know if you saw that episode with us, but you said people are just so afraid of being uncomfortable. And for example, we try, and Kash talked earlier about the echo chambers, and we have a lot of positivity and similar minded people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And what I like about BetheChange is Kash has this group of dedicated people that want to create unity and love. But in order to get more people on the opposite side, and some of them want to create unity and love, it's just finding the conversation between the two. And I'm hoping that we can get that with BetheChange and transfer them over to that concept of being a streetlight. So you actually pushed me today. You're like, stop sugarcoating your words. Or yesterday when we talked about it, actually say what you want to say. And then, just find the right way to say it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And this one's going to be an interesting one. I'm automatically going to start with Kash on this one because your second post, but the first one that now has 30 million views, you talked about all lives matter. And that was a few weeks ago. And the philosophies behind it, just the phrasing. So Kash, how do you feel about the phrase all lives matter?
Personally, I feel like it's a better phrase for the simple fact that it's all inclusive. It doesn't leave anyone out. So it's like, we all know that, other issues need to be discussed and looked at and be made aware of. But when it divides people, we need to figure out another way to get that same message out. And I feel like all lives matter is that way because it's all inclusive. It's not saying one matters any more than the other. It's that we all matter because we're all humans.
Simple as that. All right. So that was your take. You obviously, that message resonated with a lot of people when you sent it. And part of that message was longer, and you talked about your issues directly in with Black Lives Matter as a movement and the obviousness that's in that phrase, Black Lives Matter. So then Serena mentioned something, how a lot of this group that we have is very positive people. There's not a lot of hints of racism that are in this group. But what we forget is in our echo chamber that Serena has actually dealt with people that really don't get it. There are still people that are not racist. They don't look at Black people like, I don't like you. They look at Black people based on their programming and say, I've been mentally conditioned to think negative about you. And it's trying to open that communication. So there is the two different aspects of it. So Aaron, how do you feel about all lives matter as a phrase?
I'm kind of torn on it because I understand both, right? Like I understand Black Lives Matter and I understand all lives matter, and I feel like it's necessary to have both. But I think you just have to specify, and there has to be more of an explanation as to what it means. So like with what Kash was saying, I do feel like it is inclusive when you say all lives matter, and that's the umbrella that it should be. But I think it's also, I'll use the word genres. It becomes a genre in a sense. To use like BET, like Black Entertainment Television, for example. It is a genre that you can look at and you can get different information from it. It's the same as if you wanted to go to an Italian restaurant or a Greek restaurant. Like they have their specific titles and they have their specific names to them, but you just have to understand that the purpose of them isn't to separate or to segregate, but to educate on a specific point of information. And I think that's where a lot of it is getting lost, is that it's becoming a he said, she said with Black Lives Matter. And it's like, you're either with us or against us. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I hate hearing that phrase, you're either with us or against us. Because it's like, no, I personally don't agree with the you're either with us or against us type of a phrase. So when I hear all lives matter, I get it. I understand it. But that's making us look at a grand picture when sometimes we have to look at specific step-by-step pictures in order to formulate that grand picture. It's like a puzzle, right? So you can't have the whole puzzle put together immediately. You got to find where those one individual pieces kind of go together. And I think that is kind of the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. And again, that's where a show and these types of discussions come in, because it creates that openness to be like, hey, I'm not saying Black lives don't matter. I'm not saying white lives matter. I'm not saying one matters more than the other. It's just how it's explained and how you perceive it and how you interpret it. So that's kind of my take on all lives matter.
And I'll hit it a little bit based on that comment after everybody goes. But it is, we have to be cognizant as people that are change agents and ambassadors of change, like this group and unity, people that words have effect, no matter if we don't mean anything by them or not. So Serena, how do you feel about the All Lives Matter group?
And I have to agree with what Aaron said, because I said things are going to be said. There's going to be words. There's going to be names that people don't like. I mean, it's the same thing as like people say with breast cancer or lung cancer. If you are having a race for breast cancer, you're not going to bring up lung cancer. You're not going to bring up, there's going to be something that somebody is going to be offended by at all time. You know, and I always tell people all the time, we understand all life matters, but you have to separate things in boxes. We know we have a problem, like we said, with black on black crime. I told Anthony this today, you know, that's in a separate box. We realize this. We know this has to be worked on, but we also realize that there's police brutality that has to be worked on. You know, there's just separate things. You can't separate things. There's always going to be somebody who is going to not like a word and fight against it. You know, like the all lives matters. Well, of course, all lives matter, but this is the problem where I saw, this is what I'm working in this box right now. Then we'll move to the next box, or we can work on it together. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think that it's going to be very hard to just keep saying all lives matter. If all lives matter, that's true. Then what happens if the suburban lady that lives in Wallyvoo has no problem going on with her life? Now she's chanting all lives matter. She's never had any problem. She's never had to have her hands up. She's never had to go in the store and take her hands out of her pocket because she's cold. So she's saying all lives matter. So then what happens to the Black Lives Matter? I mean, she's never going to understand. It has to be an open discussion so people understand what it means. We all matter. But this is the problem that we are having. This is what we need to work on.
This is what we're talking about now. So it's a timing thing. So that makes sense, because I've had a conversation about, somebody said, didn't you, because I haven't posted anything Black Lives Matter. I don't post All Lives Matter. Kash is itching to get back. We're coming back. I had somebody say, didn't you post Blue Lives Matter? And I go, actually, I did. Fun story. I posted that when 5 police officers were killed less than 4 minutes from my house 4 years ago, and which is why I started BetheChange, was because of that event. And at the time, they were in the spotlight. So when they were using the argument against me, I simply just said, it's the exact same thing. At that time, we had just had 4 people murdered, or 5 police officers murdered right next to my house while they were protecting people. So you're playing that right back. And I get the timing thing, but I have a different philosophy that I've come to now, but I'll get to that right after Curtis talks. Kash, just keep it in the cabeza.
Right. Be easy.
Curtis, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I mean, you all have great points with what this is talking about. I don't like that people don't understand each other with All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. And one thing that I realized when listening to people, because I talk a lot, when I was listening to people and their explanations about this and what's going on, a lot of people said that they were against Black Lives Matter about 2 years ago, right? A lot of people were like, yeah, I didn't like that term. I just felt like it was divisive and, well, whatever is going on. And then they said after George Floyd, after they saw a lot of things, after they actually started doing some research, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize what was going on with everything in the world, in America. I was only looking at from my experience, and I never asked you, Curtis, or anybody else that was Black, what was going on. And I just assumed that everybody is the same. I assumed that since I treat everybody the same, that everybody's treated the same. And after these people were able to, research and understand, they're now saying Black Lives Matter, but not with the actual group. You know what I'm saying? I don't like, it is what it is. I don't like the group because it can be aggressive. And I don't think you have to be aggressive to people, because when you're aggressive to people, it pulls people's back. And so the biggest thing that I have with that is with the Black Lives Matter, with All Lives Matter, I think if people just realize that at this point in time, we're focusing on things that everybody has a chance to work with, and that the greater community outside of the Black community in America has a very big, responsibility. And Kash talks about self-responsibility. Everybody's got responsibility, because there's nobody in this chat anywhere that can say they haven't been programmed in somehow from society. And even myself, and this is something that, I don't mind being truthful and raw. I was talking to a friend about people I've dated in the past. I've dated, people from all over. And and one thing I said about a young lady, I said, oh man, this girl's beautiful. I dated, and she's dark skinned, but really beautiful. And my friend caught me and said, Curtis, did you just hear what you just said? And I said, huh? She said, you just said she's dark skinned, but really beautiful. And I go, oh my gosh. So if I know myself as a Black man is saying things like this, not knowing or being malice in any way, because I see all women as beautiful, and everybody has what they like, men or women, that I know that. And I told this to some of my friends, and this friend was white, and another friend that called this out was Black, and they're both women. And they were like, oh my gosh, if you can think this way, if you have these thoughts, if you actually say these things, and you're Black,
how everybody else thinks.
Think how everybody else is who's white. And so with the All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, it just we have to get out of our head of saying, okay, well, Black Lives Matter is already against me because I'm white. No, Black Lives Matter because you are white, because you do have power. Everybody's got power to work with us together to make this together where all lives will matter. And that's where we get with that.
All right. So I'm going to have a point that actually might stop where Kash is thinking right now, because I don't fully agree, and that's fine with you, Curtis. And here's my issue with. I
disagree. Go ahead.
I know you disagree. But here's the deal. Here's something that I've noticed, and this is not sugarcoating. This is being obvious. A Black person has an easier time, flat out, saying all lives matter. They'll get flack, and they might get a little bit of shit from their community, no doubt. However, think of it like this. If everybody chanting, and I will never, ever at this point say anything positive about the BLM as a company, but as an organization. But for Black Lives Matter, if people are chanting it in our face, and this is where you get biblical, this is where you look at how can you treat that. The concept of all lives matter said back to somebody, especially from somebody who looks like me, is literally, no matter if you mean it internally, it is throwing gasoline on a fire for no reason. So ultimately, if somebody's hurting right now, and somebody mentioned, what about police officers right now? And I agree. But in order to avoid the fight, because the fight does not end. This isn't a fight with the resolution. It's a fight with one person's side having to listen. So if you know that all lives matter coming from me is going to have zero effect whatsoever, it's the exact same way that I talk about Colin Kaepernick's original protest, which was, yes, you have a point on one side that says kneeling for the anthem is part of freedom of speech. I'm not going to tell him how to protest, but I'm going to tell him why it was divisive. I'm going to say to people it was divisive because it polarized people. So all lives matter, although it makes perfect sense, is fighting words in a situation where if we're picking our battles right now, it is fighting words that is pointless. So to me, I will never respond to somebody with all lives matter, not because I don't believe it, not because I don't believe Black Lives Matter, because I think all of it is one, but it's because it is a fighting concept in a part that does not need to create tension. Kash, it is now your turn.
Before I get started, I just want to say I love y'all. I do. I love you guys, and I'm not speaking from a place of malice at all when I'm about to say what I'm about to say.
Go for it. You're all good.
I agree that Black Lives Matter. First and foremost, I'm Black. Of course, I think my life matters. But like you said, they created Black Lives Matter in response to a need. I agree. And it was beautiful when they created it. But then it mutated. I went to a couple of protests for Black Lives Matter, and it was not about what they first started out with. They're supposed to be attacking injustices in the state and because of vigilantes in the Black community. That's what this is, their mission statement. And that's mutated. Now it's not about that because they only attack racist cops, as they put it. And secondly, to meet the need. Okay, I've created streetlights, all lives matter, to meet the need of Black on Black violence. So is it not fair then for me to say all lives matter? And I mean that in the sense of the community I come from, where people kill each other every day that look just like me. They only killing each other, nobody else. So there needs to be an awareness made about that. As far as I'm concerned, that's my concern. That's my movement. That's what I'm focusing on. Since Black Lives Matter's focal point is the police and the brutality of the police and injustices with the justice system, my focus then, since you guys got that covered with Black Lives Matter, I want to focus on Black violence and violence as a whole, white on white violence, brown on Black violence, all violence. So that's what I say. When I say all lives matter, I mean, we all need to get it together. We need to stop killing each other and belittling each other. If somebody tells me Black Lives Matter, I'm like, I feel you, they do. I'm not going to argue with them like all lives matter. I'm just going to let them have that. That's theirs. That's fine. I don't disagree that Black lives matter. But when I say all lives matter, don't get mad for what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is all lives matter in the sense of no cop, white or Black, should kill an unarmed man if they're not being attacked and their life's not in danger. No brother that looked just like me should be killing another brother that looked just like me because he's wearing a hat that got red and Black in it. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a vice lord and he's a king, or he's a Blackstone and he's a GD. It shouldn't be that. That's my focus. I'm from the hood. I've dealt with racism my whole life inside my own family. So when I say all lives matter, it don't exclude me from being Black or saying that Black lives don't matter. I agree, Black lives do matter, but I see the need, which is more of a need than police brutality, because police brutality is not a real big thing that happens all the time. I'm from the hood. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of people that's being killed by the police that are Black. There's actually more white people that get killed by the police than there is Black people, statistically. So where's the need for white lives matter then?
So, Kash, real quick. So the percentages, as you mentioned, and just the percentages, obviously, it still weighs that a higher percentage of Black people are, and I'm just making sure we have the facts right, a higher percentage of Black people, but it is not as drastic as some people would say. It's 2.5% or 2.5 times different, but it's still a lot. But regardless, so my question becomes with all lives matter, knowing that phrase is almost mocking, it almost sounds as though it's mocking Black Lives Matter. Could you see how that would essentially be a place of adding division to the division? Like, you could say, we matter, or I don't know. It seems like it's a direct response to a cause. No. And again, I want to distance it from the company.
This is what I say. Yeah. Okay, from the cause point, okay, I can understand that. But like I say, I used to support Black Lives Matter. If you go back far enough on my Facebook, you'll see me saying Black Lives Matter. I was with it a couple years ago. And the reason being because it was a just cause. When they came out, the protests were a lot different. You don't. I'm gonna use just my city where I'm at right now in Lake Station. When they came out here and they protested, the first thing that the dude let off with was, "Fuck the police, fuck God, and fuck his prayers." A Black Lives Matter representative. Okay, so you just attacked 3 different things, and only one of them was supposed to have anything to do with their cause. What has God got to do with your cause?
Yeah.
Why fuck God and why fuck his prayers? So, okay, maybe that's just him. Maybe he's just an ignorant dick. Maybe. But he's leading the head over here in this community for their cause.
Yeah.
So, I think right there, you just eliminated me because I love God. I'm a God-fearing man. I don't like that. You know, so if that's what the cause is about, and then you're trying to incite people to tear things up and burn down buildings and riot and come on now, these are jobs that people in the community work, and you guys ain't from this community. When you're over here tearing up the community, you're not even from here, and you're messing up our place where we live, where we don't have a police brutality problem, we don't have a police murder problem, we don't even have a racial divide problem in this community.
So I have a problem with a comment on the side, and I know this person, so I see it. Drew Hill said, very false, and I believe as though he's referring to your story. How can something, and this is where I have a problem, how can something be false to somebody that had a first-hand experience of what was said at a rally? That's not a false statement. You could say you disagree, but in conversation, you have to understand that Kash lived it.
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you why, Mr. Drew. You have a thing, sir, which I love you, brother. I just want to tell you, you have a bad case of cognitive dissonance. So even if you go on my page and watch the video of this man saying this, you're gonna be like, oh no, that's a sound bite. He didn't say that. Because your core belief is so hard in Black Lives Matter that even if I show you that this dude from Black Lives Matter is saying these things, you're gonna be like, oh no, he put that in there. That he wouldn't have said that, but he did.
Oh, he was responding to somebody else. I'm sorry, we didn't see the adversary. That would be my bad. That's my bad. You were getting all like,
so
that was my fault. That was totally my fault. All right, so let's.
This is why I love live. This is why I love live, because we ain't perfect. Let's go.
No, but I love that you did that, because that's exactly what happens. Right there is exactly what happens. You looked at that comment and you thought one thing when it was pertaining to something else, and because you tried to anticipate it, because you had a some type of relationship with this person, you try to anticipate what he was thinking and what he was referring to, and that's what happens. And I think that's what's happening with Black Lives Matter. In the beginning, it was one thing, and then I'll say it, and just like religion, it takes different turns based on people's interpretations of it.
Yeah,
and that's what happens, and that's what makes things really, really complicated when you get into these grand schemes of what they are. When you say the all lives matter or the Black Lives Matter, it started as something small and then it became something so grandiose that now you've got so many different people in there stating, oh, this is what it means and this is what it means, but you're not the root of what started it.
No, and context matters, and we just learned, because I didn't see the response. We learned that. So I think that was a good lesson learned. Thank you, Aaron. So, all right, the All Lives Matter thing, I want to wrap. So Serena, Aaron, and Curtis, 30 seconds to wrap up anything that you want to say more about All Lives Matter. Go ahead, Serena.
I just think that people have to realize that we go down different paths. Like, Kash just said, I don't have this in where I live. Everybody's path is different. You learn by occurrences. You have to have the ability to alter your life according to what has happened to you. But like, he has a passion about that. He believes in all lives matter, well, of course, like he said, if you're Black, then of course your life matters. So that's all lives. But there are people who do not understand that. So I understand what Kash is saying. It creates a divide, but there's going to be a divide in something. I mean, I could say tomato, someone could say tomato. The point is to get people to understand we are all different, have different paths. I'm not going to go around saying tomato because someone just wants me to say tomato. Okay. When I go on interviews, my name is Serena, but if I'm going to a Latin interview, I'm not going to say Serena. It is what it is. People conjure up stuff in their mind to make it like it has to fit me. Well, that's not what life is about. It's about fitting me, and it's about fitting you.
Yep.
And being one. So, and that's what I have to say about it.
All right. I do too. That was good. Aaron?
Uh-oh.
If you want, you can have my 30 seconds. I can see my 30 seconds.
It's not even loaded. It's just like there's just so much of it that's happening that my default and my nature is just to like laugh when things get ridiculous or just absurd. And I feel like it's just become such an absurd thing now between All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. And now like we're talking about names of things instead of what the actual action is,
right?
And what's actually happening with it to create this change. So it just makes me laugh, and I just go into joke mode. I'm just like, if you can scratch my back and make me some cookies, you matter. Like that's
yeah.
Like
I think you should put that as your dating profile. All right, Curtis, go ahead and wrap this one up.
Yeah, I mean, I love everybody's take on it, and at the end of the day, Anthony and Aaron know me well, and know that for me, it's just a matter of everybody to come together, and like Aaron was saying, our action speaks louder than our words, and so if you're saying all lives matter, I want to see action that you're doing to make sure all lives matter. If you're yelling Black Lives Matter, I want to see your action on what you're doing for Black Lives Matter, not just saying posts, not just saying I'm going to donate money, but working on ourselves to make sure we know what we're saying and what we're going to do about what we're saying. Because just like a relationship, if I tell a girl I like her and I don't pursue her, she's not going to think I like her because I keep saying it. So actions speak louder than words. Let's make sure our actions are doing the speaking and make sure those actions are positive and going to make positive change.
Yeah. So we'll wrap that one up. Kurt, some people are asking where everybody's from. Curtis, you live in Atlanta, but you're in Houston right now. Aaron is in Orlando, but lives in New York. Serena is in Atlanta, and Kash, and I'm in Dallas. Kash is out in Unity America. There we go. All right. Somewhere in Indiana, Chicago area.
Midwest, Ohio, let's go.
But I do want to mention, and it's not just the taken out of context, because I was at fault for something even different that's a bigger picture there, which is anticipation. Anticipation is another big issue, because once somebody comes at them and they look different than them, they already start the conversation in a different way. And I did just because I thought it was something, and Drew and I have agreed on things. We've disagreed on things, and it's very interesting. I jumped real quick. So before we go to our next topic, Kash, you and I were talking about your Patreon and starting to set up because I know a lot of people want to talk to you and actually have a one-on-one conversation. That's the benefit of Patreon in terms of being a little bit more integrated into what is now 100,000+ person movement. So can I put it in the box? What is your Patreon? And then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing. Do you know what it is? Or do you want to throw it in the box?
Sure. I got to figure out how. I'm still new to this.
All right, just if you can get me the link. So ultimately, Kash, are you cool with us doing something where I'll help moderate you? You go on there, and all your Patreon subscribers can have an actual like Q&A. We'll look up articles, we'll do stuff like that, and that'll be what's special to them as a Patreon subscriber. Does that sound good?
I'm so with it, bro.
Cool. As simple as that. Whenever you figure it out, go ahead and throw it up there. Serena, also at the same time, I want to put up the charity website that you work with.
Yes, it is www.familypatternsmatter.org.
Excellent. And I want to say, you know a little bit about grant writing with your guys' charity as well, correct?
Right.
Okay, so I want to make sure that you and Curtis and Kash and we all work together to start trying to figure out some streetlight stuff, because there's some really cool stuff coming with that. And for you guys that have joined us now, Kash and I have been talking a lot about the way we're going to merge the concepts between streetlights and BetheChange as well, and finding a way to continue to fully integrate, and then talk with Curtis with Regular Hero and find a way that we can all make the Regular Hero charity, the streetlights that has exploded in a matter of 1 month, and make it focused, make it purpose-driven, and to actually really, really create change and start spreading all over the country, not just in Kash's hometown. With that said, let's talk about some more issues. So this one was actually, I don't know if Victor is watching right now. I saw this on his page when I was driving, and I really thought it was a joke. I could not believe this one was I thought something much worse had transpired. So if you haven't paid attention to KState, and there's a lot of athletic teams in college football that are starting to make sure there is rules on racism and all that stuff, which is absolutely fantastic and needed to make sure that there is something that keeps people responsible for their actions. But as we know, humor is sometimes objective or subjective, subjective, whatever. There was a post that was very tone deaf, poorly timed, and there was by a student by the name of Jaden McNeil that posted something on his own Twitter, his personal Twitter. It said, "Congratulations to George Floyd on being drug-free for an entire month." Obviously not a great thing to post. He had also has some history of posting something like, "Why are women soldiers?" He's not a very nice guy, it seems. But I personally am always one for taking time for a learning opportunity above what they're demanding. So the K-State football team is demanding that he be expelled from school, removed from school. Otherwise, they will not practice. They will not play. I'll start with my feelings on this one, and then we'll go around. I struggle with this one. I don't. The fact that they want a student expelled, and by the way, he has gotten hate, death threats, comments on him that nobody has spoken out against, and I guess hate begets hate. But at the same time, it was poorly timed. It was poorly said. There was no racial slur. It had undertones, or it had overtones even, of racism. But to me, this is and I know it's college, but you get a call into the dean, and you have to speak, and you have to learn, and maybe even public service. But the way that he's getting shamed right now is exactly what is going to make him and his children and his friends that are close to him possibly more racist. It's spreading more hate. And the fact that they are not willing to practice and play on something that they are receiving they're receiving a scholarship to play something and to get a higher education bothers me, because if you look through everybody's tweets, and I think there is a distinction between overt racism and stupid comments, because if you look, I guarantee you, and I'm saying an absolute even though I don't know the truth, that there has been some sexist comments probably made by the football players on their Twitter, probably made by other students. There's probably been some questionable things said. You can't tell me a school of 30,000 people doesn't have some issues with what has been posted on Twitter. So where does the slope end and begin? And I think that starts to push the envelope on censorship, First Amendment rights, and technically the school can't kick him out because he's protected by the First Amendment based on all the legalese that I had seen. So I will who wants to go first? Raise your hand. Aaron is ready to go.
I'm just going to put a few things out there, and then we can move around the circle, and you can come back to me. But the statement of freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. I think a lot of people forget that. 2, I think when something like this is said, or a person like this comes to light, this is where, and maybe this is a terrible idea, but this is where I would want to get him on the show to understand him. Like, why would you say something like that? What made you write that? How did it empower you? How did it lift you up? How did it make you feel however it made you feel to say something like that? What are you missing in your life that you needed to say something like that? And I think with what you said, Anthony, all of the comments and everything that's going to come at him, it's only going to fuel him to move more in that direction. It's like Kanye. You start thinking of Kanye and how Kanye is. What does Kanye do? Kanye becomes more Kanye because that's what's expected. So with something like this, I feel like he's only going to lean into it more. So I think that's where being able to understand why he would say something like this and where this is coming from, I think there's more power in that than going, we need to punch this guy in the throat. Because granted, I do believe that he should get punched in the throat after we find out what is happening. But
wouldn't this would be such a great learning moment to actually bring the team, a whole team, and him in a room, and actually start and videotape it and show people how to create a conversation. You know what? If he comes off looking like an asshole, great. But at that point, have a damn conversation. I don't know. Curtis?
I mean, racism is racism if it's overt or not. I mean, that was a racist tweet to me. And again, like, I don't know where he was coming from it, so I'm not saying he 100% racism or whatever. He has his own beliefs. But that's not funny to joke about somebody's death, right? It's comedians make fun of things that are comedians, and they know they can say things that are controversial. But at the same time, this is something that is not controversial of the death, because everybody knows that this was wrong, right? If it was, I don't even want to give it a some kind of frame to have it where it can be a joke. So yeah, it's kind of funny, you know. And maybe if that person's family did it, kind of like what's his name from Saturday Night Live, he makes jokes about his dad dying on September 11th. I can't get mad at that, because that's how he copes. That's how he does it. He's a comedian, right? That's what he does. Not everybody agrees, but he's not talking about anybody else but his own personal experience.
But now, we don't know his personal experience either. And
that's what I said. But he has no personal experience with George Floyd. He has no personal experience with George Floyd getting killed. The difference between that and Davison is Davison's dad died in 9/11. It's horrible. Nobody ever likes that it happened. But Davison can make that joke because that's his dad, right? Everybody, again, has the option to make the joke. It's free speech. But like Aaron said, you got to be open to the consequences. Now, with the players, they have a right to represent what they want to represent. Like, if I'm playing for a team, for a school, and I'm going to make them a lot of money, and I don't get a lot of money back, which now they're able to get paid, which is good. Then I'm not always 100% agree. That's another thing to jump in there with. But at the same time, I'm representing somebody. And if this is a part of something I'm representing, you have the right to say, well, I don't want to represent that because I don't agree with that. And I think having a conversation, like you said, Anthony, would be great because they can have it and understand each other. Honestly, I don't believe that this guy would ever understand, looking at his, you know, his different in the past, looking at his current affiliations and the things he's doing. It's very tough for me to see some type of a change or walk back.
His whole Twitter is all jokes, and a lot of them are off color, and a lot of them are attempts. So that's what he does. That's just him.
Well, I'm not looking at just Twitter. There's other affiliations that he's with, and even people in his. I dug a little deep in this. I don't want to go too deep, but you know.
So Drew Hill and I don't always agree. We kind of agree on this one. So I want to throw that up. We don't always agree. But all right. So next I want to go to.
So just to clarify, I didn't call him a racist.
I
said that tweet was racist to me. So that way everybody can understand.
Got it. Go ahead, Kash.
I love to laugh. I like dark humor. I listen to a lot of messed up comedy. And I ain't gonna lie, when you just said that right now, I almost laughed, and not taking away, like, that's tragic what happened to George Floyd. But with this dude, I don't think he's racist. I think he's just like a clown. I think he just tries to get a laugh out of dark humor. Might be one of them comedians that like just do dark humor. Like there's been, like when Michael Jackson passed away, as soon as Michael Jackson passed away, you remember how many comedies or comedians made jokes about certain things. You know what I mean? It wasn't like taking away from his death, and these were his friends that were making the jokes. It was like, you know, just to laugh about it because it was a sad thing that happened. With that, it could come off horrible. I understand that. I've seen the comedy aspect of it. Probably a joke and ill humor, but I mean, I like dark humor. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to condemn the guy because if you go through his stuff, that's what he does. He just talks crap. He jokes. He's a joker, you know? So I didn't take offense to it personally. I didn't look at it like that, like he was trying to be racist or he was trying to, you know, down George Floyd. He's just going off with, you know, what was funny to him. The media portrayed George Floyd in that light, and he made a joke about it. Unfortunately, you know, people were going to take it hard because it's in the media right now about this man's life. But if he wasn't in the media and it was just somebody that knew him and he made that joke, you know, nobody would really care. It'd just be a joke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't look at it as bad. I thought it was kind of funny.
I kind of lean that way. And here's the thing, like, and I honestly don't even know if I truly believe it's a racist joke. Like, it's an ill-timed joke. It's got some negativity. It's here's the thing. A really terrible way to say it is like George Floyd's been gone for a month, and that N-word takes. He hasn't been on. I don't know. Like, I don't see any direct racism. I see a potential tone deaf joke. I don't. That's my opinion. Serena.
Ooh, I really feel like it just all depends on where your morals are. I mean, it's just like I said, I traveled. I get it. I was a military brat. My dad was in Vietnam, and he always said how we grew up was I had two enemies. I had the one, my enemy, and then I had my brother who was supposed to be beside me, who might shoot me in my back. And it's just like we learned that, people grow up with different mentalities, learn behavior, abuse. It shapes the mind. Starting at 7 years old is what they said is learn behavior. But, it's just like you're not going to be able to change everybody in their mindset. Like Kash said, he was just like, I like dark humor. I love dark humor too, but there in my life, there's sort of kind of like a fine line. It depends on how far someone goes, but everybody is different. I'm surprised that, like I said, that someone would really want to even go that route, but it all depends on where you came from. It's just like you could have had a hard life and seen things in your life the whole time. So something like that might not even affect you. Or you might get somebody who, like I said, has lived in Smithville or whatever. And for them, it's just like, oh, I don't care. It just all depends on where you are in your life, But again, like Aaron had said, there's consequences.
Yeah.
And it's just like, even in school, with kids saying something and they're losing their scholarships. I think that schools need to go in because you don't know what this child has had in their household the whole time growing up.
And why he's
But when you come to the school, we have got to try to change your mindset. Administration needs to go in and say, do they have the ability to alter, to change? Can we give them that extra chance? Because we don't want them angry and getting kicked out of school. And then now they're really going on in this world being angry.
He might have just been a kid with because I looked at him. Maybe he was a kid that was maybe bullied a little bit as a kid. He looked a little dorky. I don't know. And he used humor his whole life. And if his Twitter was always like, I don't like American Airlines because of this complaint. I love puppies, or look at this tweet from The Office. And then all of a sudden he dropped this random off-color statement. Then it'd be like, oh. But instead, it just might be one that didn't hit. Go ahead, Kash.
It was a joke. They tried to expel a kid for a joke. It was a joke. It was ill-timed. But I'm telling you, in like a year, people would have cracked up. I'm like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I almost laughed when you said it, which I feel bad for almost laughing because of the situation. You know what I'm saying? But it was a fun. I love dark humor. And nobody says anything about any other comedians that say some dark stuff, bro. Like, even when it's racist stuff, it's just humor. You don't look at it as a racist joke. You look at it as just humor. They're being funny. And I cracked up.
Curtis, I want to end on you because I think you saw it, and you and Aaron both saw it a little bit differently. So there was a comment on the side that said, what about the joke was racist? And again, the fact to me that there was no overt racial slur, I actually don't see it as racist. So why to you is it a racist joke?
Well, I mean, people only look at Twitter, right? Surface area. If you look at what he's been doing, what he is doing, I encourage everybody to do their own research on everybody that we talk about, because it goes deeper than just, if he was a comedian like Dave Chappelle or
That's hard to do, but you've done the research. Of what is his background? Go ahead.
It's just going to take a long time, and I don't want to go too far into it. But I will say there's a lot of things that are in his past that aren't comedian, right? If it was a person who's a comedian, and this is why I look at it from a profession or somebody who's aspiring to be something, then I'd be like, okay, well, this dude's a comedian trying to get some light. I mean, he probably tweeted that to get some type of reaction, which he did, and he got a lot of people, a lot of followers hate. And I don't like the hate. And I don't like the craziness, and I don't think he needs to be expelled. But when you look at that tweet again, if you don't have any type of personal connection, like you said, Cash, Michael Jackson's friends did make those jokes, but they were his friends trying to cope with something. This guy has no idea with anything with this guy, George Floyd, and this is yet bringing up something that George Floyd did in his past that we're holding people accountable for, where, look, he's drug free.
But you're not saying it's racist. Aaron, why is it racist? Go ahead. Wait a sec, Cash. Why is it why can somebody tell me why it's a racist joke? Oh, I think Aaron's frozen. Go ahead, Cash. Aaron, I'm gonna bring you in and out.
The reason why people are calling it a racist joke is because it came from a white guy. Let's just call it. Let's just say what it is. And I know you say you looked into his past and everything, but the rest of the world hasn't. So with just looking at what he tweeted, without knowing anything about his past, even if you found out he was a leader of the KKK, without knowing any of that, when you look at the post, people don't know him and they're saying it's racist. It's simply because he's white and it came out of his mouth. If I would have made the joke, they'd have like, oh, this insensitive Uncle Tom, he just, whatever. But it was a joke, bro. I really don't think the kid meant any harm. I think he wanted to get some popularity and he wanted people to know who he is. And it was just a joke. I literally almost cracked up when you said it.
I get it.
Literally. And I know that sounds messed up, but I love Richard Pryor is my third cousin.
Well, for real? We got to talk about that later. But think about it like this. When Kash comes on the show, when we are doing when Kash comes on the show, let me drop Aaron down. When Kash comes on our Biscuits and Gravy show, people give him because Curtis said, if you're a comedian, you're a comedian. Well, that's not true. Some people are comedians because that's their creative outlet. That's what allows them to wake up in the morning, watch the terrible effing news, and go about their day. And people some of this group looked at Kash and I you guys aren't talking about real issues because we're funny. We like to be funny, and that's how we get it out. We're not on stage comedians, but it's an outlet for us. And a mistimed joke, to me, that some people can find funny, I think is completely unfair to then hold the university hostage again when I believe there is, I'm sure, other tweets that are offensive to all different races, all different genders. It's come on. It's just, to me, it's...
But I will say they do that to players. When they go to the draft and they dig deep. And they punish those guys big time in the media. So if these players who are subject to more scrutiny than anybody else at the school, because if you ever been in college football, it's a professional game, and they go to the league and they're not even, these guys are 10 years ago, tweets, and they're 10 years, 12 years old, 15 years old, when they don't even know what really is going on.
But I'm consistent. I think that's ridiculous too.
I agree, but I'm just saying we can't hold these guys to standards. If they're well, you holding me to this standard, I'm holding everybody else to this standard. And do I think, again, the players have their own choice to make? Yeah. Do I think they should hold it hostage? No, I think they should have a conversation to work through it to understand. But again, if they want to leave, they want to leave. But what I will say is people are now understanding the power of college football, which people don't want to admit is one of the biggest money makers for these schools
100%.
than education itself. And a lot of people are well, these guys, this and this. Georgia Bulldogs had millions of dollars that went to funding that entire school, more than any other program in the school.
I get it. But we're still not able to prove that it's a racist tweet. So I
said that's after I did my research. I deemed it, to me, in my idea, racist because of that, of what his past was. I didn't jump into it right away.
You're good. Aaron, you want to wrap it?
Yeah, I personally don't think it was racist. I think it was just mistimed. I think he needs to, I think it depends on the platform. If you're going to a comedy show, you may hear some off-color stuff. You may go to, you said Dave Chappelle before, you may go to a Dave Chappelle show. You know what you're going to get from that show. So the platform that he's on and the way that he said it sure, maybe it was mistimed and off color. Should he get expelled? No, I think, like I said earlier, I think it should be, I think he should be able to explain why he said it, or he should be able to go on his feet and be like, guys, I'm a comedian. This is this, whatever. I think he should be able to explain it. I look at the team and I think again, I try and find the positive in things. So I immediately look at it and I go, I like the fact that the team unified and stood together to make a stand on something. But again, what is it exactly that you're taking a stand on? So that's where the explanation needs to happen. And like you said earlier, Anthony, I think that's where that person, James or whatever his name is, I think that person and the football team, I think that is a thing that should happen. I think the school should put that together, because what's that going to do? It's going to make that school is then going to become a standard. It's going to set an example for all these other schools when an issue like this happens. Because life is not linear. It is cyclical. And something like this is going to happen again. Given the time, something like this is going to happen again.
So it's action-based. So ultimately, I mean, the players, as you said, their movement was to strictly protest instead of create action, which is, we're not playing until you let us have a conversation with this student. That would have been phenomenal, and maybe it can still happen. Let's go to the next subject. We're only a few minutes behind right now. We're doing okay.
Hey, freedom of speech, bro. We gotta not be sensitive in America. We done got way too sensitive. We came way too much stuff to be crying about somebody making a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If he posted something like, "Hey, N-words, y'all need to die," like, see you later.
Right.
That's a death there. That's so many different things.
But I have to step in there real quick, because with him, it also says that he was downplaying Black Lives Matter. So we know there was some racial intent. We're not ignorant. We all have sense. And then another thing, my brother got a full ride scholarship to the University of Maryland.
Hold on. Was he downplaying the movement, or was he downplaying the phrase?
Well, they said downplaying the movement, so I don't know. But like I said, and we don't know what his thoughts were. But the fact that he put it in together during this time, he's young, dumb. I mean, just whatever. But it's just like, we all say stuff. I said stuff when I was young, But what I'm saying is, we're in this right now, all this together. He knows. He's old enough to know better. He's part of a team, When my brother got a scholarship for the University of Maryland, the first thing they did, a lot of schools wanted him, was go to his coaches in junior high and high school. They wanted to know what his personality was like. So, yes, they might have known things already, the school, about him, where they thought, well, you know what? We'll give him the chance. We'll go ahead and give him the chance and see how he does, because we're a team, we're a unity. But they have to still look at, does he have the ability to alter? Everybody says dumb stuff. I mean, but you are, if you have a scholarship, they look at that. They're not going to, if they feel like you're going to be a continuous problem, they're not going to keep you on that team. And we don't know what
he's not even on the team. He's just a student.
Okay.
I get it. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it, but ultimately I think and here's a learning moment for the group, is the fact that we don't fully agree. And most people would say, everybody's far one side, like, he should be expelled. He's a racist. He's terrible. And this is the way the media portrays the two different sides of the argument. And then one side going like, it's funny. It's just a joke. Who gives a crap what he says? He shouldn't have any responsibility. When in the end, we all just came to an agreement that there probably should have been more of a conversation. I'm not a huge fan of the way he said it. I think it's kind of funny, but they should probably just talk about it. If they want to be a leader, create action. So we did the whole 2080 thing. People think that we're 20% alike and 80% different, and we just realized we were 80% alike and 20% different. Do we all agree on that?
I disagree.
No, but I agree. I agree. I just said
it's
I
true.
totally disagree. I think this shouldn't even be a topic because the kid made a joke. We shouldn't be having this discussion. He shouldn't be on trial for getting expelled. None of that, for making a freaking joke.
Yeah, I don't think he should have been expelled, and I agree with Kash, because like you said, he made a joke. We've all made jokes in certain situations. I don't think that they should ruin it. He's young.
I get it.
And Kash,
I agree.
Kash, I agree with you that we shouldn't even be having this discussion. But unfortunately, we do. This is where we are because of lack of conversations and because of
or oversensitive.
And I'm not just trying any of this stuff, but when you get into bullying and when you get into all this other stuff, it's knowing how to deal with it, knowing how to handle it. And that doesn't happen in this day and age. So I hear you, Kash. I feel you on we shouldn't even be having it. But unfortunately, this is where we are. where we
So-
do.
I will say there's a lot of oversensitivity words thrown out there, but a lot of the problems that we have are people who aren't sensitive enough to know what's really going on or what is affecting other people. So I do think how people react, they might be reacting in their emotions, but at the same time, our sensitivities are not oversensitive. We're not sensitive enough in a way that we're able to understand, okay, let's see where this person's coming from. But also when I say something, my words have power. And that's the biggest thing.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How about we just don't care what someone else says? If it remember when you were
But we're
kids,
human. That's human. That's humanity.
but we're blowing up everything that everyone says. I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off to me and sticks to you. You remember that?
But
They
that
stopped
was
teaching.
never true though.
They stopped teaching kids that way too long ago. So here's the deal.
True.
I saw this post from Heidi. Love you, Kash. Always being honest. Here's the cool part. All of us are being honest. We all have different perspectives, and we're being completely
I love all
true.
of them here, y'all. Just so you know, every one of these people on this panel are amazing, and I love them. We're just having a discussion, and that's the beauty. We bridge gaps. We can disagree all day, but I'm still gonna look at them like, man, I love you. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all because that's what it is.
And
This
we're all
is-
being true to ourselves.
If we all agreed, I'd say we all be lying. That's when you know
exactly.
you're lying. If you agree on every single thing, if you're in a relationship and y'all agree on every single thing, something's wrong, bruh, or girl, and you need to get out of that, or really
Well, that's like Central Park Karen that was a Uber Democrat that was very pro into all the causes that all of a sudden saw one black guy that was bird watching and was like, because you know what, they're French. She's like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. The next day she's like, police. So
I don't want to assume.
Anyways, all right, let's go to the next topic because I for everybody watching, I did a video about this end of last week about COVID-19, the protests, which I completely understand, exercising First Amendment rights, but all of a sudden we have decided to ignore that one of the causes of the uptick in cases, which I still think is also a questionable topic, but the uptick in cases for COVID-19 and the re-shutting back down of certain parts of the country and business is not based off of the protests that happened 3 weeks ago. I understand why they happened. I was in support of all of the peaceful protests, but we have to realize that there is a cause and effect, and we can't lie to ourselves for that. So I am going to really quick play a video because one of the discussions that I got in with several people was that no, everybody at the protest is wearing a mask, which I said, even if they were, it's a lot of hours throughout the day. You scratch your face, you do this, that, and to actually think that it was because a couple people just started sipping drinks at a bar, it's all part of the same issue. So I want to play this video real quick of something last week that I saw. Actually, this week I saw it a couple days ago. Let me go ahead and press the play button.
What?
Oh, where's the mask? Where's the mask?
Are
She
we,
wearing a mask in the
is
picture.
this why we're watching this video?
What's that?
Is this one protest?
What about hold on, let me pull this off real quick.
This is New York, not Texas.
That was New York. But hold on. Serena, it looks like you got it shows that you're side. That's weird. Anyways, okay. So here's the deal. Couple things. And one, I do not want a response from Curtis on, but I'm going to mention something. And I think Curtis and I want to do a whole discussion of when to discuss black on black crime. We had a long discussion about it. But to me, first off, if you want to take the actual protest for its worth, now finding all the different things we can have a protest about during a pandemic or whatever you want to call it, like gentrification in a community of a bunch of people that simply either rent or buy a house, to me is completely pointless. And as and the difference in Curtis and I's discussions we talked about is right now the focus is on police brutality. So sometimes people get angry. Why would you bring up black on black violence? So if the focus right now is on police brutality, why are we now having protests for gentrification and all these different things? We'll talk about that next week. But
oh, he's a marketer at heart. You know what I'm saying? Watch out.
You can touch on it, but I think that's like, all right, you guys have all, like, the protesting has lost its mind a month and a half or a month after the protesting has started because it's gone off subject. But here's the deal. Everybody that told me they're wearing their masks, they're not wearing their masks.
We should also play the opposite. There are a bunch of other protests that are going on against that, so they're not wearing masks either. So I just want to make sure we
nobody. But that's the thing. If we are exercising our First Amendment rights, it's going to have a cause and it's going to have an effect. And to completely disagree with that, and as Serena knows, I had somebody comment on one of my things saying, well, you're forgetting about the spring breakers. Okay, I spoke out against the spring breakers 3 months ago. I thought that they were part of the problem. As people that know me, I used to be an MC for spring break. I know all the people out there. I was calling them. I was texting them saying, y'all don't realize what's going on in the real world right now. You need to get back. So before I go back to my other discussion about the fact that I think the numbers with COVID are a little bit bullshit, I do want to show one other graphic and then I'll have you guys comment. So the most important thing is obviously having enough hospital beds, and actually being able to react. COVID is a serious thing. I'm going to tell you, I've started re-wearing my mask again, not because I fully believe they're necessary, but because I think it's necessary to at least work together and say, you know what? It's not that big of an inconvenience. I don't think they're not telling me I can't leave my house. If my trade-off is wearing a mask in order, and I get the people that are against it. Here's the deal. Wear it just so that we can say we're doing everything you're telling us. Don't shut down our damn business. That's all I have to say. But here's my biggest issue. If you look at this graph, the thing that really matters is mortality rate. And right now, even though the cases are quote unquote skyrocketing, our mortality rate is dropping drastically down and a repetitive line. And right now, as of June 28th, we only had under, I think, 260 mortalities. So all of a sudden, as the media likes to do, what's that? This is the country.
Okay.
So we are now, let me pull everybody back up. So here's the deal. When mortality was the biggest issue, how did I do that? Oh, my bad. When mortality was the biggest issue, everybody was saying, look at all the people dying, even though the cases were leveling off. And then now the cases are going up because of testing and a little bit of reopening and the protests, and they're completely ignoring the number of mortalities because that is what the media is doing again, which I'm not a fan of. Who wants to go first on all the different beautiful things I just brought up?
I'll take it.
Go ahead, Kash.
All right. COVID.
Sounds like a rap song. COVID.
Yo, check it. No, COVID to me, man, look, I get it. I know it's a real thing and all of that stuff, but I ain't wore a mask. I'm sorry, you guys. Don't crucify me for what I'm about to tell you. I haven't worn a mask for one day, except for yesterday when the lady made me buy one and wear one to be able to go into her store, which I did not like. I paid $8 for a freaking mask. I just said, screw it, let me get it. Red, white, and blue one. I got it. But the mask, when I looked at the mask, I'm like, so if I gotta wear this mask every day, it's cloth. It's gonna have a buildup of bacteria. Then I watched the video of the guy that wore the little paper mask. Cut your oxygen off. Your oxygen level is a lot lower when you're wearing this mask, and then you're breathing in the stuff that you're breathing out, which is like what, carbon monoxide or carbon? What is it?
It's
carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. Yeah, that stuff. You're breathing that back in. Then they tell you wear the gloves. But when you wear the gloves and you're sweating, that's toxins coming out of your body, and then you're leaving them right there on your body, and they're going right back in your body. It's just like people get more sick when they wear the stuff. As far as that's how I feel about it. I'm sorry if I'm not a doctor. Don't take my advice. I am not a doctor. I just use common sense. And I worked in the cell phone store dealing with people and money all day. I kept my hands clean. I keep my hands clean. I wash my hands every day.
a lot. I wash my face. I haven't caught it. I maybe did in November because I had a really bad cough for like 2 weeks and it wouldn't go away. And I thought I was going to die, but I didn't die because I'm still here talking to you guys. So obviously I didn't die, but I think something was wrong with me then and they just wasn't calling it COVID. But since then, I haven't wore anything. I just don't because it bothers me. I got a headache. You know what I'm saying? I got a headache from wearing that little cloth mask yesterday. I caught a headache, bro, and I only had it on for like 30 minutes.
So here's I know Serena wants to go next, and I get what you're saying, Kash, and I understand it. But here's the thing about business. We talk about you and I have talked about the whole concept of capitalism. You own your own business. It's your right. It's your right if you don't want to go back there. It's also their right as an owner to tell you how they want their store. And for somebody that says, Kash, don't go back, forget that business. Just think about something. We also don't know their backstory. That owner they could go home and be taking care of a sick child with cancer. So there is no doubt. The one statistic that you can't doubt is that at-risk groups can be more affected by this illness. And if somebody is older, whatever, you don't know if they take care of their like 92-year-old grandfather. You don't know. So at that time, I don't know if protesting somebody's business because you have to wear a mask is necessary. But again, it is a pain in the butt. And what Kash is saying, there was another person that I saw, a nurse came out and showed all of her oxygen levels being the same. However, she was sitting on a chair and tested them after a minute of sitting. And that's a completely inaccurate test that I think she was actually a doctor that she just put out there. And everybody's like, see, there's no difference in oxygen. There isn't when you're not doing anything. That's like the difference between holding your breath swimming and holding your breath when you're stationary. It's two apples to oranges. So ultimately, Kash is allowed to have that opinion. My core belief is very similar, but I choose more of the right now sacrificing, because understanding that honestly, if you were to tell me what my trade-offs are, if that's what I have to do to make everybody happy, I'm okay giving up that small freedom. Serena, I put Brandy on the thing. Serena, I know that you were itching, looking at Kash like, where are your damn mask? So Serena,
I was like, where does Kash live? Let me find Kash. I'm like, I'm bigger than him. I'm about to tackle him down.
Oh,
but it's like,
I got a big soul.
I'm ready for you. I'm ready. Look, okay. But what I'm saying to you, and I understand, it's just like, for me, the mask, I understand. What are the stats for people killing over for wearing this mask? You have the throwaway mask. You're not going into a store for 18 hours. You might go in for a couple hours, but you are breathing this in. You're breathing in things every day. You're breathing, the planes fly over, you're breathing in. But that chant in people's head, I feel like you should think, am I saving somebody else's life? Because I don't know, if I have it. You don't know if you have it. A lot of people haven't been tested. If 1, 2, 3 people die, to me, that's too many. So it's just like you said, Anthony, that one little thing that I can do to help, why wouldn't I do that? Is for me. But it just all depends on how people stand. A lot of people are just like, my freedom. The lady who was up in Michigan fighting her freedom, she was saying that she shouldn't have to wear a mask. We shouldn't have to stay home. And she ended up tested positive for the COVID. I believe it was in Michigan where they were rioting because they didn't want to. Well, she still felt like it was her right. She has a store and she still should be able to go out and do whatever she wanted to do. It's the mindset of people that I'm worried about. It's just like, I don't care about you. You don't care about me. Well, the numbers, people are going to die. That's going to happen. But
that's life. That's like actuary's job is to actually maintain the balance of human life. And this year, even with all the COVID deaths in the world that are quote unquote COVID deaths, even the ones that maybe not, we're actually still completely within the human death range of the balance of society. And that's again what they do. So, and I get 1 or 2 people dying. So here's just the way that my brain works. 1 or 2 or 3 people dying is unfortunate when you're in contact with them. However, if people didn't die, our planet would actually implode. We'd fold because we don't have the resources in order to maintain a population that all lives to a certain point. Again, that's what actuaries do. So it's being smart and saving the people around you does make sense. And you mentioned the writing. So I do want to ask you that question. Do you think that the protesting had something to do with the increase?
I feel like I do. I mean, because of the yelling, I mean, going to the beach, sitting at the bar. But you got to understand how this started, and I'll leave it here. You know, we were all told that this was believed to have been a hoax. There's so many people, and we have to be careful because people follow other people. I see you, Anthony. But what I'm saying is there are people who believe certain things who they will follow somebody even though you have the proof of it, but they still believe. We have to be careful. I mean, I feel like following the doctor's guidelines, the CDC, that's who we should be looking at. We don't know everything about this, but for me, I know I don't want anybody in my family to die. Well, it's the same thing with you. Do you want, who do you pick and choose who lives and dies? It's just like, can you really see your kids suffering through this? And you thought, I could have done something. That person could have done something to save my child. So we just can't take that risk. So I would just rather, like I said, yes, the protesting. Whenever I would see it on TV in downtown Atlanta, I'd be like, oh dear Lord, what? I mean, I don't have enough belts to go down there to whoop everybody, and I probably would. But I understand protesting because it's real, and a lot of people are just like, what in the world is going on? Well, this has always been going on.
Yeah.
It just wasn't your path that you saw. Protest peacefully, but yes, it's just like we have to be smart, because the COVID is real. It's
real, and there's no doubt that it's real. But when you talk about the kids, I mean, people choose to look at statistics when it fits their storyline, and unfortunately for kids are much safer from a mortality rate than are kids from the regular flu. That is that's an actual known, that is a real statistic. Now, once you get above 24 years old is where it starts to transition the other way. If people are wondering where Kash went, he went to the potty, so he will be back. Like, where'd he go?
We're trying not to say that. But.
Yeah, no, but people gotta ask. So here's the deal. This is, when I cringed is when you brought up it being a hoax. This is again the beginning of why I started Truth Will Set You Free, was the COVID concepts and the way media were throwing things in. So Serena, you believe that, based on your comment, I'm assuming that you believe that the Republicans and Donald Trump referred to COVID-19 as a hoax. Is that correct?
Well, I do believe that, yes, if we have anybody that leads, Democrat, Republican, you got to understand people are voting you in because they are trying to follow your lead. We're going to live our life, not by everything you do, but you are our leader in chief. So if you don't know about something, just say you don't know about anything, because you have so many people. There are people, I told you the story today, Anthony, about my sister's friend. There are people who in their mind believe certain things. Now, even like with the bleach, he didn't say go drink bleach. He didn't say go drink cleaner. But again, you have people that are following your lead. And it's just like you have to be a leader and make sure that you're not going to say everything perfect, but it's been a little wild. I just want people to understand that it really is real. I've had people who say, I've had someone say the KKK wasn't real. This was years ago, but I'm just letting you know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just,
no, I get it.
It all depends on that person's mind, and it's going to affect everybody.
So I just think the way that the base, and I want to clarify the hoax thing, and then I want to talk to Aaron and Curtis. But the whole thing with the hoax is the reason why this is created. The beginning to, I think it led into why the powder keg of the racial divide is part of the issue. It's a sense of what the community has become, and the disagreement and the division is because in the very beginning we had just come off of the impeachment, and then words are being spun. And like you said, as a leader, he should be saying better things. And we won't need to talk about what was tweeted a couple days ago that I think was just complete lack of, That one you can't defend. But regardless, the concept of this, he simply said the way that it was being handled was the Democratic. He never said the disease was a hoax. And to this day, there is still half of the Democratic population, the voters, that believe that he originally said it was a hoax. Now, did he underestimate it? 100%. But if he would have just waited for the information to be accurate, as we're seeing, he wouldn't have spoken yet.
Yeah.
We still don't know. So as a leader, he has to save face in one way, shape, or form. And he is imperfect in more ways than we can talk about. But fact is, it is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And there's still people that think because of what the media wanted to show and see this division, which mathematically it is not the flu. Mathematically, it is also not 20 times worse than the flu from a mortality rate right now. As of right now, the newest CDC statistics are 3 times more deadly than the flu. So that's where we're at now. That will change next week, just the same as masks. Dr. Fauci at one point said, don't wear masks. So there is so much information that has been misinterpreted, missaid, mistranslated to the American public that at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't want to wear a face mask, although there are statistics that say they should. God, the fact that they're not even looking at numbers based on the protesting. A lot of times, there's people that are getting tested that because it's a invasion of their freedoms, which I find a funny statement, invasion of freedoms and privacy, and they're testing themselves and testing positive for COVID. They are actually not required to say, they're actually told not to ask if they went to a protest for contact tracing.
Right.
So how are you contact tracing without being honest to people?
Yeah.
Okay, Curtis, go ahead.
So just to clarify, Dr. Fauci did say not to wear a mask, but fear of shortage for the actual PPE for the doctors and nurses. Which
No. He said fear of shortage. Months later, he said the reason he said, when I said that on February 29th, it was because of a fear of shortage. On February 29th, he said, don't worry about wearing masks, go about your daily life. And actually, I believe as though he said it into the beginning of March as well. He corrected himself a month and a half later. Go ahead, Curtis.
Okay. I mean, you can look back at it. That's what I do when I dance. But yeah, so with the mask, it is, people are worried about the oxygen. It does not block your oxygen or the flow of air. The masks block actually water droplets, and that's how virus spreads. So it's not a proven fact that you'll lose oxygen as much. I do believe there is it does limit some of the breathing, because I've wear it and I understand it, but it does allow for the air to escape around your face and also through the mask itself. And even if you have an N95, the respirator is there on purpose to let it go out so you can bring more in. So actually you are breathing cleaner air when you're wearing a mask, because people, like right now I'm in Houston, there's a Saharan desert cloud. I don't even know how it got here. It's horrible. Like it's in the air and I can see it. It's crazy. So I'm wearing a mask because even outside normal, the particulates are bad. So a lot of people, I understand, again, it sucks to wear it. I'm not a fan of it, but like Anthony said, I have people who are at risk and can't get it, and I don't want to get it. So, and I really don't want to pass it to somebody, because I know I would feel horrible if I passed it to somebody and they actually died from it, with how it reacts with the body. Because we still don't fully know how it really does anything. And that's why people all have these guidelines and everything. They're guidelines because they potentially will and probably will change. So my thing is, for anybody who want to wear a mask, if you go into somebody else's store or establishment, that is all their right to tell you what they want to do in their store. But when you're at home or you're doing your thing where it's not affecting anybody else, I hope you just do what you want to do and feel free about it. So that's my thought on it. With the uptick, I do believe that people aren't getting tested that went to those protests. I never went to the protests. I helped try to make sure people had PPE at the protests, make sure people were social distancing, just because I knew what could potentially happen. Yeah. But again, too, I see a lot of people partying, and a lot of these things that are happening are from people, hey, like it's over. And again, like I lived in Georgia, so I see it. I've seen people go crazy at the club and then expect like, well, somebody need to save me because I got sick. No, you
it doesn't make choice. that doesn't make sense either. I get that. As for the oxygen comment, there are some experts that say that it does. There is both sides of the spectrum. As we're learning, there is a bunch of different arguments. Ultimately, if somehow we're deciding to split ourselves up on like, it's become a whole nother race. Like, are you a mask wearer? Are you not a mask wearer? It's just
that's dumb. I agree. That's dumb. Wear a mask if you're gonna go to somebody's store or restaurant, and then outside of that, because they require it. Outside of that, do what you want to do.
And we've lost the time, but I'm gonna have Aaron finish. But the last thing I want to say is I think the Texas governor, Texas legislature, somebody that's kind of a no name. He came on the radio when I was driving the other night. His statement, they flat out said, should people wear masks? His statement was, here's the deal. If you want to best prevent what you're doing, stay 6 feet or more away from the people around you. Simple as that. If you can't social distance, do your best to wear a mask. It was very non-hateful. It was very non-forceful. It was simply saying we would recommend it. It would help. It would help even if it's 20. He didn't give a percent, even if it's a little or it's a lot. Try to do your best to stay separate. If you and if you don't feel comfortable wearing a mask, stay separate. But when you get close, maybe do your best to wear it. Aaron, go ahead and wrap this subject up, and then we're going to get into the at least a little bit of humor. And I got this image that we got to get ready for. All right, go ahead, Aaron.
I mean, my whole take on COVID, especially being up in New York when it all first popped off, is the hospitals and the frontline workers. When there wasn't enough supply of workers and hospital space and ventilators and all that to take care of the people, they were having to decide who was living and who was getting what materials to help them get better. That was a huge issue. And I think that is how it is going to go and how it will go from here on out, because there are diseases that exist and they haven't gone anywhere, right? There's still diseases that are out there. AIDS still out there. Herpes still out there. You've got all these illnesses that are out there, so they're not going anywhere. So I understand people being upset about the mandatory wearing the masks. I totally understand that, because they feel like it's infringing on their liberties and their freedoms. But at the same time, people are nasty. So people aren't washing their hands. They weren't washing their hands before. People sneeze on things. People cough on things. I see it on the train, and then I get up and I move to a different part of the train. But it's just people are gross. It happens. I think if you are around other people and 6 feet is not a thing, I think you should wear a mask or try and distance yourself in some way, because it's those vapors that are passing along, and it's your choice. I think it should be our choice, and it should be our decision if things start getting out of control, to try and help out by wearing the mask and by staying inside and whatnot, and by not going out and raging your face off. But I just don't think people should be
judged on it
and terrified of the numbers.
Yeah,
because the numbers will always be there, and it will always be what they present. I think people just have to godliness, respect the cleanliness.
Be kind to each other and be clean. So last fact that we'll end with, Patrick, who I know people are like, why couldn't you bring him on the show? He actually can't fully talk about it because of some of the work that he does. But what an N95 actually means is it blocks about 95% of the particles that are smaller than 0.3 microns, which COVID is actually smaller than. That's another statistic that we've seen as well, is that the masks really don't work because it's actually able to fit through most of the masks, including the most ones that actually shoot it up. Anyways, that's it. We're going to wrap that part up. We're going to take 10 minutes on this last topic.
Is that in the water droplet or outside of the water droplet?
I don't know.
Okay, I need Patrick to clarify so we don't have one-sided. Again, that's objective without transmission moving.
That's a good question. All right, so here's the deal. Patrick said there's a lot he can still say. All right, so here's the deal. Yeah, I didn't know how much he went into it. So first off, let's start off with just a touch of humor. We've had a serious episode. So if anybody doesn't know, there was the guy in St. Louis and his wife that are in a private gated community. If you've had a chance to look inside of the house, it's a museum. It's probably a $20+ million house. And he knew that Black Lives Matter was having a protest that was coming by his neighborhood. So he was armed and ready just in case. And there is photos of a broken gate going in. There's also video of people walking in through the gate. And I think they broke it probably after they saw the guy have a gun. But fact is, to me, the biggest mistake he made with him and his wife were the wardrobe that they choose, which was straight out of a 1980s Wall Street movie. But so he just wanted to grill. Now he just wants to kill. Suburban Commando. This one's also a good one. Patricia McCloskey, Saving Private Property. I think this one's actually quite funny. So those are the two funny ones. But I forgot about this one. You can steal this look. The Brooks Brothers Cheetos.
Training, I love it.
And then the Colt AR-15. Anyways, so with that said, in a serious note, these people broke in. Even though they didn't break in, they opened the door and they went into private property. As an American, and Kash had a great conversation at the end of his show last night, a dialogue about protect your property. And a lot of the people that I've seen on social media getting upset at these people were saying they didn't do anything wrong, meaning the protesters. Technically, by law, the protesters broke in to a private property, whether they broke the gate or not. They were in private property. And another person, and actually if my mom's watching, one of her friends, Gail Gooden, one of the Gales, she mentioned if I knew people were going to come, I would have just, pretended like it was a hurricane and just left for the weekend. No. That is your property. And some of the stuff in that place was specifically priceless, like literally artwork that you cannot replace, things that they have worked on. So they were proud enough, whether or not they knew how to handle a firearm, which they did not. They did not. They were allowed to protect their property. I want to get your guys' opinions real quick on around it, and then we'll wrap up the show. Let's go with Serena. Let's start with you.
I agree with it. It's your property. Protect your property. It's just like if you come over, I'm sorry, no matter who you are. It's just we can't get to the point where what I believe in is more than what you believe in. So I can just, because I want to protest, I'm coming to your house. No, it's lock and load. That's just how it is. I don't care. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. You have to protect yourself. So it goes back to that mindset again of morals, where that person's came from. For anybody to believe that you shouldn't protect your house, I'm a little bit worried about them.
Yeah, they said the people were saying, why didn't they just stay inside? Because I'm gonna tell you, once they get inside, it's too late. Once they have started that. And somebody else goes, what is, and I told this to Kash last night, somebody, same post, I think, that same chain of posts saying, what is 2 people with a gun going to do with 300 people? A lot. Once you start hearing bullets fly, that crowd becomes much smaller. 100, even if you don't know where you're shooting, that crowd will scatter. That's how a gun works. Curtis,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Brains on your shoulder.
Two things. If they didn't enter the property that they shot, because I know this private property, but who owns the street that are marching on? That's the other part.
It's theirs. It's their street. It is not your typical it's a private road. It's literally 3 or 4 multi-million-dollar homes that it's not your typical gated community. It's like your gated community. It's like
did they enter the house? I'm just asking.
No. What happened? So they went.
Did they go through their property? Because
they went right through the front. So they went in through the gate, which again, they own that street. It's not like it's government property, that street.
So
and their lawyers
do all that.
It's part of their HOA. It's part of what they pay for and whatever. I don't know what their HOA is. It's probably $30,000 a damn month. But they walked through, and then immediately they started yelling from closer to the house. Those people saying, "Stay away from my property." they're saying just make sure, because they were going to the mayor's house is what the intention was. They were trying to go to the mayor's house, and they were yelling at him, and the people continued to walk, and they continued to yell back and forth and call them names, and I guess, sticks and stones. But if you're protecting your house and you got a gun, you're asking for it. So, Aaron, go ahead.
I mean, it's simple. It's legal. It's the law. They were able. I mean, no one got hurt. No one got injured. Luckily, to Kash's point, it provided me with a good laugh watching those two, and the memes are quite entertaining. The only thing about it that really kind of terrifies me is the woman and how she was holding the gun. Like,
Hey.
That no, it's not.
Whoa, not against all women, because
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Like, she was holding it like it was a cup of coffee, like just
we can't
nonchalant.
Whatever.
Serena?
I said we can't help it sometimes, okay? But look at the percentage of women that get shot with their own gun. That's why you have to learn. I mean, you can't, or shoot themselves. It happens.
Oh, if she had pulled that trigger, she was definitely shooting herself.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I just want to be like my forefathers and manifest destiny. God told me that was my land. So I'm just saying, my forefathers can do it. Why can't I?
Kash, you get to wrap this one. But honestly, like, the biggest thing to me that I see, it's so funny, and I'm going to bring this into a racial discussion. I see most black people on social media going like, yeah, you protect your house. And then it's really, and I'm going to use divisive terminology, but it is the white upper middle class liberal post that I'm seeing on Facebook of people that are just like, no, they should have just let it be. And it's an interesting thing to see people it boggles my mind. There was even people at that protest going like, yeah, it's probably a bad idea. Like, the ones that were involved, like, this is dumb. They have a right to, like, literally, they actually had a right to shoot the people going through if they would have advanced, in any way, shape, or form towards them. They actually had a right to shoot. So if they were real assholes and real racists, they could have shot those people for just advancing on their property just by making a step, because they were already on their property. So any aggressive move, and there were threats made, they could have actually fired. They wouldn't have hit them, but that's a different story.
And I'm not a big.
Were they in their yard? Because so many feet belongs to the city. And I mean, like our house, we have our house, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they can go so far because they could have called the police and said, come get them, So they were.
Kash, keep holding that Constitution. So the protesters were there. They were that is a big ass house, by the way. Yeah. So they were essentially just on that stoop. But once you go into this area, there's only a few homes, and they're all part of property that's fully owned by the homeowner. So the protesters were walking right up the street that belongs to nobody but the people that live in that neighborhood of 4.
Okay, I got them.
Did the mayor own part of that?
The mayor did. Yep.
So the mayor's getting paid by the people.
Yeah, that's another different topic. It's a different situation.
I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just bringing that up.
The Seattle mayor is really mad, by the way, that people came to her house, which I find even funnier. All right, go ahead, Kash. The Constitution. Give it to us, brother.
I'd have shot him.
Yeah.
I got a multi-million-dollar home. I'm telling you, get off my property. Don't come over here. I'm scared because y'all been tearing things up. You ain't tearing my house up, and they didn't want to leave, and they still talking.
Right. I'm not a big gun person, but if I was and I had those kind of guns and someone was on my property, I mean, my nipples would have gotten hard. I've been like, let's go, baby, it's go time.
I'm trying to tell you, it would have been a duty in my
go get the Glock. Let's go.
Yeah, no, that to me, it literally falls under that no-brainer category. I'm like, are we really mad at people protecting their house because they're dressed like Donald Trump in 1987? Like, it just.
He's dressed like that now. But I'm just
I just seen them come out the house. I'm like, oh no, they gonna kill me.
I mean business.
I'm gonna go that way.
You should not go on anybody's property. You should keep protesting at the state capitol. Keep it to the government. Don't go to people's houses. Let people have their life. and do it. That's the only thing. I'm 100% agreement with. Let these people have their life. Don't get up in the area in their yard.
Yeah. And the last thing about it is really it's just a matter of we have to realize some of the comments are what we have to realize. Everybody's different, but the comments really were they hadn't rioted in that area yet. And that also falls under a lot about police issues as well. Like he shouldn't have shot him in that instance. Things can happen very quickly, very, very quickly. So yes, there's those 300 people. And if 100 of them decided to charge that property and break in, that will happen in a matter of 30 seconds. Yeah. So just because looting hasn't happened up the street, trust me, you just got to a house that is next level. And if you are part of that eat the rich group, they are licking their chops and you are in danger. So anyways.
But don't live in fear.
Don't live in fear.
Be aware.
Be aware. Be prepared.
Get some real gun training so you can actually do something.
So the last thing somebody said was like, well, they didn't even end up breaking into their house. I go, no shit. They had a gun. Of course they didn't break into their house. That's called success. Nobody died and nobody got their property damaged.
There's a sheriff in Florida. I don't know if it's in Lutz or Tampa or where it is, but there's a sheriff and he's got all these videos. He's got all these videos on YouTube of moments exactly like this. He's like, if you guys plan on looting and breaking into people's houses, I encourage them to blow your ass back out that house. He says all kinds of ridiculous things like that, but it's like, I only say it's ridiculous because of how he says it. Like he's just so matter of fact with it. But I mean, those are our rights, and why would you even get close to the line? Like, why would you even do it?
Kash, in the words of what? What are you going to say? And then we'll wrap up.
In the words of Medea, peace be still. My peace be still if you try to come on my property.
That's right.
All right, Serena, it was phenomenal having you on. Again, I'm going to go ahead and say the website again, and you and I are going to continue to talk, of course. We'll try to get
it is www.familypatternsmatter.org.
Gotcha. I'm going to put that in the chat box right there if you want to get a hold of you and a little bit about more what you guys do. We're going to check it out. And also you and I have talked a little bit about BetheChange and possibly doing something around where you guys are at in Georgia. Any last words, and then I'll drop you off?
Just to love everybody. I mean, we're shaping young minds. And that's the thing that people have to realize. It's just like, no matter what walks of life you came through and what jokes you think are really, really funny. And some other people don't think the jokes are funny, but it's just like, we're all different and you love each other. And, our experiences is how we shape our lives. And my path is not your path, but, we should just have one thing in common that, we want everybody to live, love each other, and work. It doesn't happen like that, but that's what your focus, your goal is I want for you and you want for me is all I have to say.
Love it. That's awesome. I look forward to talking to you more. Frank, I know you're in the side box. Thank you for having her come and meet us and meet our show. And we'll continue to to add to that conversation because I think there is something to be done there between BetheChange and you. And of course, I'm sure Kash will want to get involved and try to figure out something. Let's talk about getting those grants and I'll tell you more about what Kash is doing. So we'll set up a call for us three. Thank you very much for screening.
You guys. Thanks for what you're doing. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, who wants to go next? We're going to do one by one, and then I'm going to do a way worse version to say goodbye than Kash did last night because his was phenomenal. So, all right, Kerr, who wants to go?
I'll start because mine's quick.
And then Kash.
Once again, I appreciate you guys so much for watching the show and chiming in the comments. And Anthony and Curtis and Kash and Serena, thank you guys so much. For your respect and your abilities and your opinions and your perspectives to be able to share them on this platform. Because what I don't think a lot of people recognize is that being on a live platform like this and being able to speak our minds is very difficult. It takes bravery and it takes courage to be able to speak about things like this. And I think there's a lot of people that watch the show because we are empowering them and we are giving them a voice. So I thank you guys for doing that. And again, I continue to say it all the time, guys, positive thoughts, positive words, positive actions. I just gave a talk on not the power of positivity, but about how positivity gives you power. So I encourage you guys to be positive out there. Have a great rest of the week. My handle is right down there at the Aaron Smalls on pretty much everything. And I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And thanks for being here.
Thank you, Aaron. And again, Aaron and I are going to talk. He had a show called Other People's Positivity when we were starting this all up. And I think the whole core message of Be the Change is really about sharing positivity. This is an element of it. So we are going to start a flagship show based on a lot of what you guys have sent us on positive messaging. And we'll hopefully get those on and do a quick 30-minute interviews with them and why they're changing the world. And that'll be the true Be the Change show that will continue to spread. So thanks, Aaron, always for your positivity. See you later. Did he freeze? It's a funny time to freeze. Anyways, all right.
He's still there.
Oh, he's frozen. I was dropping one by one. Oh, there he is. Okay, all right. Kash,
I thought we were gonna keep it up. I like to see everybody.
All right, we'll see everybody. Kash, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. I love this. I love Be the Change. I love what you guys are doing. I'm glad I get to be a part of it. I want to thank everybody that came over here, supported, watched the show, shared the show. If you could, like the page. That's what it's about. Because all the guys that you see on here right now they're trying to do the exact same thing I'm trying to do. We may have different methods, different beliefs about it, but the one thing we agree on is unity. You know what I'm saying? So if you get the time, if you haven't yet, please go like the page. All right. And go follow these guys too. You see their handles down there. Go ahead and show them some love and support because they're trying to do the exact same thing. All right. We all got the same goal and we bridging gaps. I appreciate all of you. I love you. I will see you maybe later because you know I'm a live junkie and I'm going to go live later. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Kash. I guess we're going to stay on for everybody. So go ahead, Curtis, wrap it up. And Kash, by the way, as I'm doing like a little touch to everybody, again, we're going to talk more. Make sure you get your Patreon up. And so that we can, because I think facilitating something where a real town hall on a regular basis would be huge for those people. And again, the great thing about Kash is he is not trying to make any money on anything streetlights. It is we are both trying to figure out that 100% of everything that once we get to the full-fledged donation stage goes strictly into streetlights. And if Be the Change could be a business aspect of it, great. And then for Kash, just the Patreon is literally just so he can continue the donations he's already made towards streetlights and so that he can keep the streetlights on in his house. And that's about it at this point. That's literally it. So let's give some value to that, and that's great. And again, the one way you can help all of us is really to continue to share. Because the more people we have, there's a value in human beings that listen to us, and we hope that you're getting a different message out of this group. Curtis, go ahead.
I just want to pull this up. I need to address this. That's just my resting Curtis face. RCF. No. No, I love you, Brandy. Thank you for watching. That was just funny. I love being around you guys. Thank you all for all the different, understandings and backgrounds and everything else. I don't like when people just agree with me because it doesn't make me better or make me learn more. I will say that I love what you're doing with streetlights, Kash. Also, Anthony, thank you for this platform as you've been doing. I know you and I worked together a long time. I love it. I will say really quick, Regular Hero, our 8th episode and last episode for this season for the show Regular Heroes on Amazon Prime, which is all about just helping the people that have been in the middle of this, whether we've helped trash people, it's been hospital people, it's been truckers. Doesn't matter who it is, different colors, different walks of life. Love that our 8th episode is up. It's on Amazon Prime. It will be shown this Friday. If you haven't, check it out. We will be working with Kash and Streetlights.
Wait a minute. You got a show?
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
I'm getting that today, dog. Hey, everybody, do me a favor. Please go get that. For real. Straight up. Go get that. Check him out because this dude's awesome.
Well,
I'm going to get it too.
They do. Explain the show a little bit because it is really cool. It's got
so what happens? It's on Amazon Prime. Regular Hero is the inspiration behind it. We do have one of the producers and the people behind what's been going on is one of the founders of Regular Hero, also one of the other major donors, but also founders of Regular Hero to make it what we are today, which is basically what Streetlights is. We just make sure we go help. We don't care about thanks. I'm the executive director. I don't take a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? But I do 100% in it. We do make sure people, get reimbursed if they are putting out their own personal money. We don't want anybody to lose money, but we're Regular Heroes are just a platform. So people, if they want to go help somebody, we don't want you to be stopped from helping and have to do all the stuff that you do, because everybody's not going to be like you, Kash, and be able to get that help and that money and that awesome, lawyer that you need to have. We just say, hey, come over here. You want to go help the homeless? Be a Regular Hero. We got to vet you, because that's, liability, self-responsibility. But the whole point is we just care about helping people. We don't do any politics. We don't do anything political. It's all about making sure people are helped, making sure people are seen. And we do a lot of mentorship programs with our inner city children, inner city youth. Our veterans, because a lot of people don't forget about veterans and suicide rates in there. I mean, it's a lot of things that we've been a part of that we don't talk about, but we just encourage everybody just to go help where you live and, do what you can with what you have right now, because why wait until you get rich and famous when you can pick up trash in your own community? And unfortunately, people don't realize trash is one of the biggest problems in our community to keep it beautiful. So if you're talking about streetlights, if you're talking about unity, I'm not talking about you, but everybody, and you ain't picking up the trash in your own neighborhood, I don't know how you can say that, because if you want to go help somebody else, you got to make sure your own place is clean. My mom always said, clean up your own house before you go clean up somebody else's. So that's what Regular Hero is. That's what we're all about. I love that what you're doing, Kash, and we're going to, any way we can help push it, understand it, we will. And, that's what we're doing. Check out the show, but also let us know what you think.
So I guess Kelly's always...
You bet. You see these comments? You're getting overloaded with streetlights. Is about to be watching a Regular Hero and maybe become a Regular Hero, because that's what it's about. Network.
Oh, you already a Regular Hero. I got swag coming your way. You already a Regular Hero. We're gonna figure out a custom Kash Kelly street lights.
Thank you.
Nah. Anthony will tell you. Anthony has got his own Regular Hero gear, and we work with BetheChange because I believe in Anthony, what he's trying to do. So I tell everybody, like, really, 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 if you care about it, we're gonna figure out a way to just keep pushing, because I don't. That's one thing I will say. As a nonprofit, we don't care if any other nonprofit gets the love or money, as long as it's going to make sure it helps people. And that's, unfortunately, is a big problem in the community of nonprofits. Is people want the money, people want the things. I don't need your money, okay, that's a lot. We need money to make sure people get help. But if you donate to streetlights, that is still helping. And as Regular Hero, we're like, perfect. Give it to people we trust and we know that's going to do right with the money, because we all know there's a lot of nonprofits on the right, on the left, that aren't doing the right things with the money. And I just want people to know, trust, put the trust back into nonprofits, but make sure you trust in the right people. So we, as a Regular Hero, and we have a lot of people, we believe in Kash and the streetlights. So, if anybody watching Regular Hero, and we're going to keep pushing it, we're going to push streetlights and make sure it's all good. And of course, you and I need to talk Kash with Anthony.
And we got to make sure
we get you going, and make sure we don't have any mistakes that the government will try to ham you up for when we raise money, and make sure you're be able to help people unequivocally.
So Kelly, she wants us to have a calendar, which could be our great holiday fundraiser. I vouch for myself. I'll be wearing just my Christmas chest hair, and then maybe something on the Christmas level. So I don't think
know if I'm ready for all that. I'm fit, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Don't do it, Aaron. Don't do it. Don't do it, Aaron.
I'm gonna rip it off.
With the last, and we'll end it while Aaron is down there stripping. No, you can keep going. If you're gonna do it right. The great thing about it's weird when Kash started talking about streetlights and the philosophy behind it. And when I met Regular Hero, because I've known Curtis for a long time, but when I started learning more about Regular Hero, there is very few charitable organizations that aren't about figuring out how to help themselves show that they're doing other things. And and Regular Hero's concept, and why I'm very excited, the fact that we all can work together with BetheChange and Regular Hero and streetlights, is because Regular Hero's philosophy was to find other charities and help those charities when there's a need. And Kash has told me his biggest passions: inner city youth, veterans affairs, stuff like that. And everything matches up. So to those people watching out there, God works in mysterious ways. He puts people in your desired path, as long as you stick true to what it is. And you'd be surprised. And people could look back when we're 2 months, 3 months, a year down the road and go, man, those guys, that happened so fast. Those guys got super lucky. I've been working on Be the Change for 4 years. Kash has been working on himself as a human being, and it just so happened that it looked like it hit quickly. But at the same time, we're always the work that has gone into evolving us as people is a game changer. And it just takes a match point to start creating change. And when you have a good heart involved, when you've got people like Aaron, when you've got people like Curtis, and you got people like Kash willing to all use their voices and their actions to make a change, that's when the world changes. So one of the things Curtis said is keep your house clean. When I was starting Be the Change, one of the core concepts I said was, if somebody is a pro-environmentalist and they're into the environment, and you ask them the question, do you recycle? This is where we become in society. You ask them if they recycle. There are people that are marching down the street, proclamating all the issues with climate change and science, and then they say, well, my apartment building doesn't actually recycle. If you're not willing to go out of your way to do something based on what your beliefs are, and all you're willing to do is post about it on social media, you are not going to make a change. And I don't want to say you're part of the problem, because that's a divisive set of words, but you have so much more opportunity in you to be part of something bigger. That's all I can say. So I thank these guys for being on. I thank you guys for watching. And I love that. What I loved about this episode specifically is this is the least we have ever agreed on an episode. And that's perfect. That is so perfect, because in life, there is no chance that we're going to agree with everybody we talk to. There's going to be different times that somebody like Kash is going to be chomping at the bit to say something. Serena is going to be going, oh my God, how do you not wear a mask? Meanwhile, Aaron's going to go, I think that comment was bullshit and he shouldn't have said it. Whereas I think it could have been considered funny. We're all different. We all are going to be able to learn things from the people around us. So I encourage everybody to please share this video, share this page, keep jumping on, keep sending positive stories, because I have a backlog of people sending stuff. So send it to the Be the Change page. I'll keep sharing those. And when I do it, blast that out on the internet. I see 300, 400 shares when I do that. And that was the point of Be the Change, is we're sick of the crappy news out there.
Yeah.
We can show these great stories and flood people's inbox, not with racial division, not with hate, but with positivity. And that's what I want you to take with you the rest of the week. I'm sure I'll join Kash again. Curtis and Aaron, thank you guys. Thank you guys for all watching. I appreciate it. And have a great rest of your what?
Real quick. Hey, Aaron, man. Kurt. Can y'all come on the show the next time, man? Can y'all come on my show? Because I really like y'all. Dead up. I really like you guys, bro.
Yeah, let me know, man.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's keep this thing. This is good. All of us is like, this looks good together. I'm just saying. Okay.
I like it.
I mean,
And honestly,
we got to get Anthony's mustache cleaned up a little bit.
Oh, I got a haircut coming tomorrow. Don't you worry. I got Pierre. I got my mask ready to go. I'm gonna be getting the trim. I'm gonna be looking fresh. It's good stuff. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting to see, because Patrick also has a different perspective. So I would be very interested to see all of us having that discussion, because I do think we have enough differences on both right and left. So I think it'd be interesting. And ultimately, what's the goal? Creating conversation and being uncomfortable and finding a way to still love each other at the end of uncomfortability. And that's what I love when I talked to Serena earlier today. She said those exact words, and I'm like, you fit. So
I just don't love Aaron. That's all.
and I'm just here for the girls, so it's fine.
Hey, watch out. I'm going to call that offensive. Better watch that. Don't write that down.
Thank you guys. That was actually a fun one. We got to chuckle a little bit on this one. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, keep sharing it and have a great.
Thank you for the comments. I love it.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.